I feel like COVID, A, it was a horrible, horrible thing. But B, I think for those of us who got through it, it was like a big awakening and like someone shook us, right? And was like, this is what really matters in the world. And this is only a tiny piece of your life. And I think it changed the way a lot of us think and prioritize work.
So, avast and salutations, fellow travelers of the tech seas, and welcome to your bi-weekly port of call. Welcome to your oasis of sanity in all the thunderstorms and upheavals going on in tech recruiting. Welcome, in other words, to the Captain's Cabin podcast, where we discuss hiring in tech and tech careers in general, and all of it with a punk rock pirate approach, I like to call it, and that is to say a very laid-back approach. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming straight from sunny, warm Miami, Jane Serra, a fellow podcaster and also VP Marketing at Work. I'm pronouncing that all right? Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Even though there's a vowel missing.
It's more efficient, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. It makes for shorter, domain names. A pay-as-you-go automation platform, and like I said, the creator and co-host of a podcast, Women in B2B Marketing. Yes, we'll have plenty to discuss, fellow podcaster, and she's you've got like about 2 decades, a little less than 2 decades experience.
Yeah.
Where
Crazy.
you've led. I know time passes, doesn't it? It's just where you've had the opportunity like to lead marketing teams, and you've also been building teams like from the ground up, and you've got quite a bit to say about that.
Yes.
But first things first, you know the drill. You would like to hear something about you that is not that very well known. What we like to call a gossip fact, cabin gossip fact.
Okay, I think I have something a little juicy. It's probably not the best way to start off an interview, but we'll go with it anyway. So fun fact about me is that many years ago, I was actually in a reggaeton video. If anyone knows that kind of music.
Yeah, of course. Gente de Zona and
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of dig that. I mean, it all sounds the same, but it's sunny and warm.
Fun.
Yeah,
You're dancing
exactly.
out. Yeah. But I was definitely a PG role. So A, you won't find me if you go looking for it, but B, it's not that interesting. But I was in the background of a video, so fun fact.
What band or what artist?
I can't even remember their name. How horrible is that? It was back when I was waitressing and hostessing in my early 20s. Back when someone would want me in their music video. And it was one of the managers of the restaurant, her fiance's band. So they all got a bunch of people together. I do not remember their name, but I need to look it up so I have that video handy. It was actually a great song, to be honest. So I'll try to find it.
Yeah. I like reggae, certain bands like, and now that I also like Shakira, and she's into that's all she does now. She's reggaeton, right?
Yeah, I think she does a blend of things, but yeah, she's wonderful. She comes to Miami sometimes. I hope one day I'll see her. I love her. I've actually been to her concerts maybe 3 or 4 times.
You have? That must be
big
something.
Shakira fan. She's
must
great.
be something. She also speaks French, like decently.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Ah, yeah. And she covers a famous French singer-songwriter song called Francis Cabrel, and he wrote a song for his daughter called Je l'aime à mourir, which means I love her to death, right? And that song, my daughter's 5 years old. Whenever I hear it, I get like goosebumps, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
I need
She's
to
got-
look this one up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. She does it in French and bits in Spanish, but the lyrics are just you Google translate them. They're just amazing.
beautiful.
You know. So tell me about your podcast. Let's start with the podcast. I'm very
You
excited
got it.
to hear about it. What gave you the idea? What prompted you to dip into the podcasting waters?
Yes, you'll probably have to cut me off on this because I can talk about this all day. So I'm a big podcast listener. I start every day listening to podcasts, all different types and styles, but it's usually something that's either a boost or something that inspires or motivates, right? Career-wise, personal, family, anything. But I find it a great way to start the day, and probably a lot of your listeners too, listening to you. So I was realizing many years ago, maybe 5 or so years ago, that I looked back at I listened on Spotify. I looked at my Spotify playlist, and all of my podcasts, and I was focused on the marketing ones at the time, all of my marketing podcasts were hosted by men.
Yeah.
Great, smart, motivated, great episodes, great podcasts, great shows, not to take away from them, but it's just, I realized they were all men. And then I thought deeper, and most of the time they were interviewing men as well. So the guests on their shows were also men. But then I was reflecting back on my career, and it was mostly women that I've worked with in marketing. So I did some research, very few stats out there on podcast and gender disparity yet, because podcasting is still so new, right? But in the marketing world, it is, I think it's around 60% women it skews. And subjectively, just looking through my feed, my feed was like 90% men in marketing podcasts. So it honestly, it pissed me off. I was like, what is going on here? Why can't we have more women on the shows? And
Yeah, for sure.
more women guests and more women hosting. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I did not do it right away. I was sitting on this idea for years. And then I finally, I started in 2021, the end of 2021, December. I was like, sorry, I said, screw it. Worse words than that, though. I was like, I'm just going to do it and start it and get it out there and see how it goes. Because worst case scenario, I test it out. It's not for me. It doesn't go very well. And I stopped, but I tried. And it's been amazing. So it's grown a lot. I have a solid listener base. I'm getting guests or potential guests reaching out to me to be on the show. So finding guests hasn't been an issue. It's been wonderful. But selfishly, it's been so great for me because I've just, especially after the pandemic, right? Everyone felt this lack of connection, and I've worked remotely for 10 years now. So having that connection with people and more FaceTime beyond your everyday Zoom team, that has been so remarkable for me and so motivating, just to have these conversations with these women and learn from them and what's working for them and their career challenges and wins. And it's just been so enlightening. It's given me life after the pandemic, having these conversations. You probably feel the same hosting yours.
Yeah, I mean, my journey was a bit, different, being that I'm a headhunter, so I do a lot of interviewing, and I found interviewing like higher level candidates, like directors, and well, it depends, but I mean, some of the interviews, they're screening interviews on my part, so they're meant to last about 30 minutes on average, but some of them, when we hit it off, would last like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it crossed my mind a few times, like this would make an awesome podcast. And on a whim, I started asking a few of these people I was interviewing, like, if I were to launch a podcast, would you be down to come as a guest? And everybody was, yeah, absolutely, it'd be great, right?
That. Yeah.
And because we would, it would be a screening call, but then we would find that we ended up discussing the industry trends, or and lo and behold, I decided in October last to launch it, to fully do it. Thank you.
Kudos to you. It's taking that first step is the hardest. So good job on launching it.
And you're in marketing, so I'll share something funny.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was very, very corporate. My company was called Stratweb Consulting Services. I think it's very, very, and the website was very cut and dry.
Yeah.
And I was explaining my job to someone, and I said, I reach out to people that are gainfully employed and convince them to leave their job to work for my clients. In a way, I steal people. I'm kind of like a pirate.
Yeah.
So instead of loot, we're talking about people. And then it clicked, and I spoke with a storyteller marketing expert who was ready to charge me $300, $500 US an hour. And I pitched her my idea, and she said, "Marty, you're crazy. This is never going to work. You're going to scare everybody away. You need to calm down. You need to pipe. It's fine to go with personal branding, and we'll touch on that, but this is way out there." And I said, "You know what? I'll do it myself."
I love
on a whim.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, it's sticky. It's memorable.
It's sticky. It wouldn't work if I were to hire lawyers or accountants or anything like that, or doctors. But it works with tech, both like the engineering and the marketing type of it.
Yeah.
I lost count of the number of people that said, "We're talking today because I want to know what the heck this is all about, Mr. Pirate," or because your cool sunglasses on one pictures and whatever works, right?
Yeah, they're intrigued, right?
They're intrigued. They're intrigued. So it's great. It's great for that.
I love that. I'm still trying to figure out something sticky for me, like personal branding wise. I know we're going to go there later too, but I love that you found yours, and it's genuine, it's authentic. It's who you are.
I've always been into pirates.
Yeah.
I have a famous pirate ancestor who's got famous enough that a guy has got his Wikipedia page.
Wow.
He was more of a privateer than a pirate, but he was known as a cunning, charming scoundrel. I'm I'm like, I believe in reincarnation as of now, because and he retired, which is very a rare occurrence. Yeah.
Wow.
His last known, the last we hear of the guy is in France, settled with his one of his 3 wives, because he was married 3 different women in 3 different port of call. And he's 50-something, and he decided to hang his tricorn and call it a day,
Wow.
So he wasn't hanged. He didn't catch a cannonball to the face. None of that.
Yeah. He made it through, and then wanted to relax.
Yeah, because the average career was about 2 years for a pirate, like in the golden age.
Wow.
After 2 years, you were a veteran. That was very unusual.
Yeah. Wow.
Short and merry life,
Yeah.
But you're one for letting your employees build and thrive on their personal brand, right?
Yes, I'm huge on that. I think I'm not great at doing it myself, but you'll see the 2 sides. I'm a hype woman for everybody on my team, everyone that I know, but I'm not great at doing it for myself. But whenever I see something in someone that is something they should stick on to and get out there, I tell them, because I think a lot of people have the problem of not seeing this in themselves, right? Or just being self-conscious, or you simply just aren't aware of these qualities that you have that are shining to other people. So I always try to tell people when I notice that, and go all in on this. You'd be great at doing this. If it, isn't something of interest, cool, no harm done. But it's at least giving them an idea or a push in a direction that could be fun for them. But I
True.
am a huge believer in building your personal brand, especially in tech. Similar to what you're saying, like you have to just break through the noise and get noticed. The way to do that is through your personal brand. So getting out there, posting once a day on LinkedIn. I have not been great at that, but I'm working on it. But it's, in tech, you just have to find your shtick and find, or just think about what you really are passionate about and just start writing about that. Like right now, I'm still working through what I feel confident sharing about on LinkedIn, but there's a few things that I'm very confident, like pulling together, shining a light on other people. I love doing that. So I try to do that with listicles in LinkedIn. Yeah. I share more about family, work-life balance. That's hugely important to me. So I'll post about that. But there's other people like Tim Davidson is the fruit cutter in marketing. I don't know if you know of him, but he talks about marketing and marketing tips while he cuts fruit. And he's tried every kind of fruit in the world. So he's cut durian, like, of course, pineapple, watermelon, some things I don't even know, jackfruit, like the huge one. Yeah. And it's his thing. And it gets, like, he's the fruit guy.
That's his shtick. And it works.
And it works. So if you find something that makes you sticky, right, and it makes sense to you, and it gets you noticed, and you're actually, most important at the end of the day, sharing valuable information, why not do it? Go for it. See what works, and get your voice out there, because it matters. I think we all are just like, everyone, for the most part, starts out thinking, but who am I to talk about this? Why should I be saying this? Who would listen to me? Yeah. And then if you really think through it or look at yourself as you would a friend, right? Therapy always says to do this. You, instead of looking at yourself as you, look as if you were giving your friend advice. Yeah. There's so much and the experiences you've gone through, just share it. You know what you're talking about. Stick to the topics you're confident in and that you would feel comfortable writing about, and
obviously. But we all get that to a degree or another, that touch of, it's been bandied around the term imposter syndrome.
Yes.
But I was discussing with a previous guest, and we both agreed that if you've never had any touch of imposter syndrome, you're probably delusional, because
or narcissist, right?
Or narcissist, exactly, which is a category all of its own. But yeah, for sure. I get that too. No matter what, you gonna like. You always have that little voice in the back of your mind telling you, like, really? I mean, you're going to do that,
Yeah, and, exactly. I think everyone's scared of being called out at not knowing everything, right? But we have to remember we're human. Yeah. We're not expected to know everything about everything. And it opens up conversation. If someone comments, you know what, you forgot XYZ, or I disagree, I think ABC, have that conversation. Human to human, it's fine to disagree. It's fine to forget something or not know something. Now you know it. Yeah. So
exactly, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the.
I had one thing that I've encountered in starting to build out my brand, and when I launched the podcast, right, is there's a fear on the employer side that some brands are very much, they hold the hands of their employees, and they're like, you can't post about this, you can post about this. Right. You are a representative of the company. You reflect. Right. It's a reflection of the brand. Some even have. I know years ago, some probably still have this, but many years ago when social was a new thing, there were in the employee handbook, there's like a guide on what you can and cannot do with social in some companies. I think it's less now, but you probably know better than me on this. Yeah. But it's strict, and it's disheartening because it helps the brand too for these employees to get their name out there and build their following. I mean, so many people know about my company, because I talk about it, and you'll see it in my posts, or you'll just look me up from the podcast and see that I work at work. So it's an extra touch and impression that helps the company I'm at. But
you'll get that with larger corporations like banks, insurance companies. A friend of mine, I invited on a podcast, and he said, I can't, because my employer won't let me. Yeah. And he works for a large, banking institution. And and I said, okay. I mean, that's fine. I get it. You don't want to cross. You don't want to cross that line. They specifically said that's something you can't do.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I was mentioning that the market is a bit of, is a bit of stormy, in a stormy situation where, I also coach candidates on how to find a job, basically, and sending resumes is not working, because when you post a job, you get thousands of applicants, and I think you have an anecdote or story to share about that, right?
Yes. So a few months ago, basically right when I was hired at work, I figured out right away we needed a product marketer on the team. So it was a big gap that was missing. I got the JD together and we posted it. At the time, we had someone in HR who posted it to LinkedIn for us. And within a couple of days, I mean, over the weekend, we got 1,000 applicants for this position. Product marketing manager. And I started going through them. We had an ATS system on the back end that was, weeding out who I should review and who I shouldn't, highlighting the top 500, et cetera. And I would go through these, and I think the ATS didn't do a great job. I don't know if it's how we set it up or just these systems aren't amazing sometimes. But I had to find some of my own that were just completely neglected, put in the ignore pile, and I pulled them out. And I interviewed a few people from here, but everyone I had some good candidates, but they weren't exactly what I was looking for, even in the JD. So I took a couple of days to look myself just one-to-one on LinkedIn, and I reached out to a few candidates, and the person I ended up hiring, who's amazing, I love her, I reached out to on LinkedIn one-to-one. She had no idea we were hiring, never saw the job posting, didn't apply. So it's exactly what you're saying. Submitting your resume, it's going into a massive pile that's really hard to weed through. Yeah. But this was by chance that I found Ashley. Like, I reached out to her randomly. I had no connection to her, but typically I would say referrals, right? Even referrals to a recruiter are strong, because someone who, if they're referred by someone who knows you to some degree, that's huge. But yeah, this was blind, one-to-one. I saw her resume. It was exactly the experience I was looking for. And that she was open to work. That banner did work. It did not deter me. It showed me that she could join right away. So that was a big win for me. Just one-to-one outreach on LinkedIn.
And congratulations, you've done your you've done the work of a headhunter, basically. That's what I do, right? That's what a good headhunter will do. They'll identify, once I understand like the position and the culture and everything else, I'll look and see and contact people I don't know that are gainfully employed somewhere else, and build a relationship and get them to talk to me. And then so what you did is exactly what a great headhunter does,
I see the need, for sure.
You reach out one-to-one, basically. And the better the understanding from the headhunter's part of the company and the position, and the more accurate he or she will be. And when I work with a new client, first of all, I have like that whole onboarding session where I ask questions about, okay, so what's the position, but more importantly, why would somebody choose to work, say, at work? What's the employer brand? And because I need ammunition, I call them ammunition or cannonballs, basically. But to, when I reach a candidate, to have something interesting to put in front of them, I couldn't sell something I don't believe in, right?
I fully believe that. Agree.
I can't. I mean, there are people who can. Salespeople, like pure salespeople, I don't. That doesn't sit well with me. I need to. Clients I've worked with over the last decade, because I've been doing it for over a decade now as a freelancer. They're all places I would recommend friends and family. That's kind of like my litmus test. Would you recommend a friend there, Marty? No, maybe not. maybe not a good idea to work with them.
Exactly.
And
Because in your heart, it doesn't feel right when you match somebody with there. I feel the same about marketing. Like I wouldn't want to bring new customers into a platform that I don't believe in. I feel the same way.
That's it. And a career change is a major, event in someone's life. It's a major change. You can't play around with that. You need to make sure that it makes sense for the candidate, it makes sense for the client, and put two together, and that's success right there. So you've got great experience at building teams, right, from the ground up.
Yes.
So I'd like to know, what kind of winning strategies you could share, top insights and challenges that you've had to overcome in that arena for hiring, say, marketing talent.
Yeah, great question. I think this is the answer everyone hates to get, right? But it depends. It depends on the company. Everything changes a little bit based on the company you're with and what the needs are. Typically, when I've come in at various stages at companies, but very often I've built out a team. And so the first thing is identifying what is the first need, what would impact the most, and building out just a whole plan, right, for what the team needs to look like, and what resources you have currently internally that can suffice for now or can be transferred to another position. I do one thing that I probably would be frowned upon by some, right, is I always look at the people. I don't just look at, okay, this is the company, this is what needs to get done, this is what positions we need to fill. So, okay, goodbye, everyone who's not here, who doesn't fit into these holes, right? The pegs in the holes. I very much don't look at it that way. I look at it from who do we have and what are their strengths and can they play into one of these positions that needs to fit. It's not always the right way to do it per management 101, right? But I just can't separate humans and people from these positions.
No.
It's something I just don't do. And I've learned to see that as a strength versus something to be ashamed of, which I used to be. I just think everyone can bring value to a team, and where can they fit in? I always try to go that route first. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you hire wrong or someone before you hired wrong, and it's not a fit, and then you can coach them out and find what would be a good fit for them and help them in that next position. But I just very much look at what the company needs, who's currently at the company that you can put into these positions that would be happy in those positions and also perform and fill in the gaps that are missing from there.
Absolutely. And that's another, incidentally, it's another service that I've started providing with clients. So we do a lot of the same. Cool. We're a birds of a feather to a certain degree, because I do that. Like when, say, a startup has raised capital and they're growing, or any company, but they're looking to hire and put a plan in place, right? So take stock of what's already there, who's already there, and then go like with a hiring plan. So what are the most urgent positions that we need to fill, and then help quite a few of them with their employer brand as well, because a lot of these companies, they're not known, they have something very interesting to offer for employers, but they're not nobody knows about them. And so we need to take all that information, distill it into something that will that the company can then put forward to attract the right kind of candidates. And I was checking some stats as to what candidates in tech at large, like not only like software engineers, but also like product managers and people in marketing, and it probably goes beyond tech, but what they're looking for nowadays is like a mission they can get behind, is work-life balance. That's always been, but it's more important than ever. Flexibility in remote, right? That's a game changer. And money comes very late in the in the process now.
Yeah.
A lot of other criterias speak much louder, and a healthy work environment
Yeah.
where people feel safe, right?
Yes.
Which goes beyond like inclusion and diversity. It's just people want to feel safe and, you know, being themselves, right?
Yeah. So true.
And that's what, you know, if it reflects really what the company is doing, that's what you need to showcase
Yes.
to attract candidates, right?
I think so. This makes me think two things. One, I feel like COVID, A, it was a horrible, horrible thing. But B, I think for those of us who got through it, it was like a big awakening, and like someone shook us, right? And was like, this is what really matters in the world. And this is only a tiny piece of your life. And I think it changed the way a lot of us think and prioritize work. And our career to certain extents, and rethinking what our career actually is versus this one job, right? There's so many different facets to what your career can be, like starting a podcast, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's been huge, and it companies need to. I mean, in tech, it's such a hard market right now. Companies don't have to do anything because they're in a positive position. But if they want to keep and retain top talent, they really need to think about that work-life balance, to put it. I feel like that doesn't encapsulate it enough, but it's just beyond this job, and recognizing that it's one part of their life.
Beyond that, I think like life choices and different, you know, plenty of people getting back to nature, or moving to, say, a cottage, or
Yes.
different priorities, different things, you know. I made quite a few positive changes in my life also during that period that have had lasting effects. And it's like a reckoning of sorts. There's a couple of silver linings to it, you know. That and the widespread adoption, more or less, of remote, right? It finally gave employers the chance to test it, to see that properly implemented, it works, right?
I'm seeing more and more companies go back to hybrid at the very least, or fully on site again in the tech space. And it's really disheartening to me, because for me, if I were looking at another company, or, you know, if I was evaluating, seeing a company that is only on site or very strict on hybrid, where you have to come in 2-3 days, these specific days per week, it tells me it's a reflection of the rigidity of the C-suite and the brand itself, and that's not a brand that I would want to work with.
You know, I get that.
So it reflects a lot on that company. But you were also talking about earlier, you mentioned the employer brand who's hiring for companies that don't really have that visibility, and they aren't known, and you need to find something that makes them a lure, right? To steal, to pirate those top talent to them. This is another reason to enable personal branding for your employees, right? Because they become, and yes, an extension of your brand, but let them be them, however way, shape, or form, as long as it's not offensive. They're bringing attention to your company. So there's a company, they're big now, but Apollo, in the marketing space, the tech space, that I know so much more about them the past year or two, because so many of their employees have created personal brands and talk about Apollo. So it makes me think this is a great brand, because they have these great people, and these people want to talk about them, and it's genuine. So I associate really positive things and smart people, and I just have all positive associations with this brand now because of the personal branding behind their employees. So it's definitely a route to go to building that brand out.
Keeping a close eye on AI, especially as it pertains to creating content, because I think that with Web 2.0 we've had a democratization of publication. There's suddenly everybody can publish, can do videos, can do this, can do that, and there's a glut of content out there. But I shudder to think if you had AI to crank out more meaningless content
Yeah.
will be swamped into.
It's already started. Yeah.
I know.
People complain about this all the time, even just on LinkedIn, just what's getting spun out that's AI. And it's different if you're using AI as a tool to help you versus it's creating the content for you, and it's not your genuine thoughts or stance on something. You can tell the difference when people share.
All right. Plenty to discuss for another day.
Yes.
Part two. I'm super happy you joined me this morning.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks
very
for
much.
having me.
I don't know if you have any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience.
I think my main thing is be human first, whether you're the one hiring or being hired. Be yourself and think about people first, and that will continue to bring the right people and the right fit for your company. And if you're the one hiring, you'll find the right company. Be you, be human, don't hide things, and it'll be a good fit.
Radical transparency, authenticity.
Yes. Exactly.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you again. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Jane.
Marty.
We'll be in touch.
Sounds great. Bye.